Hi, I'm back. It's been about a year since my last video. I have been back to Besuj since then, but only at Christmas time for 3 weeks. I haven't actually been back there since then, but I was doing a lot of work in the house last week, last year, mostly painting. So what I thought I would do in this video is put it together, show you what I did, little montage of photos that I took in Besuj, and the upcoming projects that I'm going to do next year, or as soon as I get back there. This summer, hopefully, but let's see. Okay, well, enjoy!
Today I've been testing out paint colours for my external walls. I did think I was going to get somebody in to do this for me, but it turns out that I'm finding difficulty actually getting anyone to respond to requests to do the work. And then I thought maybe, if you look up here, you see the entire house is covered with this sort of bobbly render. This bit around the entrance doors is smoother and so will be easier to paint, but this bit out here, the rest of the house is covered with that, and I thought maybe I should chip that off and look at the stone underneath, and that's still a possibility, or maybe I just paint it what's called ton pierre here, which is the stone color. And so I bought 2 tester pots in the local hardware shop, and I tested both of those out. And to be honest, I'm a little torn still. I like the colour of the top one better than the one on the bottom, because that seems to be whiter and less stone coloured. But for the same amount of liquid, I got better coverage with the one on the bottom, and it was smoother and creamier to go on. So it's kind of hard to make a decision about these things. Yesterday I removed all of the horrible brown tiles that were all the way around my balcony, and I sort of cleaned all of those up because I put a little video about the paint that I want to put on there, and I didn't really want to paint over those tiles, or the edges are in fairly good condition. There are a couple of spots like over here where I might need to put in a little bit of cement afterwards, but I think I'll do that after I finish the painting. And then I thought, before I start painting this, I have this up here. I'm not sure what this is called, but it seems to be some form of brace. So, and it was painted over, and also I think some of the facade material, the name slips my mind, was put in it as well. And so I started removing it. The bottom bit was fairly straightforward. I'm going to use a paint remover as well, but I just wanted to chip away any of the facade material away from it before I do that. And then once I've gotten all the paint off it, and I'll put an anti-rust compound on there, and then I have some black paint that I used to do these supports that are here. So I'll do the same thing on there, and that also has an anti-rust component in it, just to make sure that that's safe. There's another one of these on the left hand side of the house as you look at it, and another one on the road side of the house, both of which are fairly heavily covered in plaster. So I mean, I'm going to paint this balcony. I'm going to try and get that done while I'm here for the summer, because it's the red that I most dislike. The rest of the house, I think, is this green, which is slightly less offensive, but I may be able to do that there and potentially this facing part here while I'm here for the summer, but I think that's possibly all I'm going to be able to do, and the other parts of the house are extremely high, so I think I might have to get a professional in to do that. So I've taken off as much of that paint and sort of wall plaster, still can't remember the word for that, off that, and so now I have to get my paint remover, paint stripper out. Now it's fairly nasty stuff, so I have to get my mask and gloves and the whole kit and caboodle on for that. Hopefully that's going to be able to deal with. You can see up here around the bolt, it was very difficult to get off, so I'm hoping that'll be able to deal with that. Well, I suspect that paint stripper might have made it actually worse, in that it smeared what orange was there onto the metal itself. So I don't know that I'm all that happy with that. What it did do was clear the extra plastery stuff off the bolt, so that's good. And in any case, I'm going to be painting over it anyway, so I'm pretty happy with that. I went with the scraper, but the scraper really didn't do very much, and I tried it with the wire brush too, but I think I probably have to wait for it to dry and give it another wire brush before I put on the sort of anti-rust undercoat and then paint it black. And that, I think, is certainly that job for today. I have to give it 24 hours before I can do anything with it anyway, so job done for now. No wonder people thought there were gods up there. Look at those clouds. They're absolutely amazing. And the colour. It's funny because through my screen I don't see that yellow bit in the centre there. It doesn't look as yellow. It looks more yellow on the screen than it looks in real life. But look at that cloud bank. Isn't it fantastic? And every so often I get a flash of lightning. But unfortunately, here we are plagued with no rain. We had a huge storm last night. The wind was whipping around. Spots of rain started to fall, but it was only spots. So this is what the garden currently looks like. It is parched. This fig tree here, the leaves are yellowing and they're drooping. Desperately needs water. My garden, I haven't mowed it since I arrived a month ago. Some of the more hardier weeds are springing up, but look, that's what it looks like, unfortunately, and it's crispy underfoot. So we are desperate for rain. Tomorrow, or rather tonight and tomorrow morning, it's supposed to rain, so fingers crossed. So Operation Paint Walls has begun. I decided to do this lower bit first because I want to put up a wire to hold up that rose because it has beautiful, beautiful flowers that smell divine. And so I decided, let's get that done so before the rose starts to grow anymore and becomes unwieldy, because at the moment, as you can see, it's held up by a couple of pieces of gardening wire, and it really needs proper fixing. So I decided to paint that first. You can see the difference between the two. So I bought a whole bunch of what's called Tome Pierre, which is the stone color paint. It's a little bit more buttermilk than I was expecting, but I quite like it. What I have to decide is what to do with this bit down here. So this is where the green originally ended. And I was just going to paint all the way to the bottom, and then I thought, this might be because of, as you can see, you get this leaching up from the ground, so I have to think about what to do. But I also bought this week a pressure washer, and pressure washed all the little sucker nodes from the trumpet vine out. Now, I didn't manage to get absolutely everything. You can see there are still a couple of them in there. And at this point, those are just being painted in. So if you look at it, you'll see they are actually still there, but I don't think it's going to be a huge problem. So yeah, I'm hoping that I will get the rest of this wall done today. We've had our first cloudy day since I've been here, so in a month. And our first rain for ages last night, so the garden is pretty happy. Yeah, and once I've done that, then I'm going to make my way around here, clean that up. You can see what my stone actually looks like when it's been pressure washed. So that's another job to do, just to wash all these steps and see what they come out like, and wash that front path. But yeah, so once I've done that, I'm going to come up here and do the edges and the tops of these pillars. Those are my asbestos cement pillars. At some point those are going to have to come out. So this paint job is really just to clean things up and to keep them going for a few years. And then I will decide what to do about those cement pillars and that whole balcony area. I'm thinking what I will do is I'll get a stonemason to actually build me a stone wall that goes up that high, and then instead of having these iron pillars up here, which also need a lick of paint, is to put back what would have originally been here, which are the wood pillar with little triangular bits. And I'm just going off on a walk, and I will see if I can find, there's a house down the road that I suspect my house must have looked like at one point, and I will take some video footage of that. This is the house that I think mine might have looked something like originally. Now obviously it's a different shape, the steps are down the front instead of to the side, but you can see the wooden columns that are there. That is what I would like to re-establish back in mine. The great balcony painting started today. The red/orange will be gone. So I painted the edge and I touched up the corners today. Needs maybe one more coat just to be sure. And then I got the first coat on that bit. Tomorrow I'm going to start with doing all the edges because I didn't really today. So do all those edges up there. I've got to clear out some of the old cobwebs and fly stuff that's up all along there. Do that edge. Tape off the shutters. Tape off those shutters. Tape off the brace in the corner. And just get rid of a few bits and pieces like this basket hanger and this pole that goes along that beam, because the lovely man who does my beams for me is coming in September, and he's going to do that. Get all that orange off the beam as well. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. It was a good solid 4 hours work that today. That'll do. Thought you might like a progress update. So Matt and I have been busy in the garden. He's taken out a whole load of stuff and cleared out a whole bunch of things. So there was a big plant there that was just getting in the way of the beauty of the magnolia. So he took that out. He cleared out that corner over there. You can't really see it in this light, but it used to be sort of hidden away and kind of yuck. So he's took all of that out, and a few of the trees here were leaving, the sort of main plum producing trees, and of course the beautiful oak, but just clearing away all the scrappy little ones that had grown over there. So you can see it's got a whole load of stuff to go to the déchetterie, and this is a progress update on the painting. So sorry, that was a wasp. So if I walk up towards the house, you can see I've almost finished getting rid of the red on the balcony. It's got its first coat. That wall that faces out, that side wall is on a second coat. You can see the lovely brace that's up there. And I've just got this little corner to do, and I have to do a bit of jiggery pokery with scaffolding in order to get up there. But yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. I'm going to see how much I can do while I'm still here. But I think it's not bad. The rose is going to come into flower too soon too, before I go, I hope. So that'll be another picture. I have finally finished painting the outside of the house. Look, I did. And the roses come into bloom, and there's Moo. Hello, Moo. All done. Over to this. So this sort of balcony area. Doesn't it look nice? I want to install a light fixture up there. That's why the ladder is still up. And that'll be about it. That'll be a job for tomorrow. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. Okay, so this is a last update from summer 2020. I managed to finish painting the front of the house to the balcony there. This was a particularly scary moment where I was balancing on some scaffolding on my ladder. The wood for the scaffolding was not very level, so yeah, that was not fun, and yeah, I don't really want to talk about it. But yeah, and then I decided that I was just going to continue the colour down to more or less the earth level, all the way down along to the plants, and you can see how beautiful my roses are. I think because I power washed this part of the wall, it gave them quite a bit of water when they hadn't had it in a while, and also I removed all the trumpet vines that were down here, and so the rose has less competition, and it is gorgeous. Look at it. It is flowering like mad all the way up. So yeah, and then I decided, there's the brace all finished. I decided aesthetically it was probably better to finish off that side as well. So I've only got to the tunnel for the second cellar, and when I'm back in October maybe I'll do the tunnels for both this cellar and the wine cellar, which is in here. I also did a bit of a clear out in the wine cellar. So, wine cellar has a thermometer on the outside, all good. The door is not brilliant. I do have a key for this door, but the lock is so rusted that I haven't actually, it won't actually turn the lock. There are, I don't know how old these leaves are that are here, but I decided that I was going to mostly tidy out the wine cellar. So as you can see, this is a vaulted cellar, which I have to say is the envy of a lot of my neighbours. There used to be an awful lot of stuff just stored in here, rubble from when I did the work in the kitchen. You can see there's still a little bit of lime and some sand and some of the tools there, but that's no problem. So the idea is maybe in October when I come back is to see how much of that cement, they cemented the vault, which I'm not terribly keen on, how much of that cement I can pry off. And then once I've done that, repoint some of these stones so that it makes this it's lovely and cool in here, like this. It's a proper wine cellar. It's a constant cool temperature. That's food for Moo while I'm away. It is at a constant cool temperature. And so eventually what I'd like to do, once I've sorted out the ceiling and I've sorted out the walls, is to put maybe some gravel on the floor here. Because of course the floor is very uneven, it's a dirt floor. And you can't really, you change the thermodynamics of the place if you put down a cement floor in somewhere like this. So what I'm thinking is do a little bit of evening out of any dirt that's on the floor. There's a massive great stone there. So I'm thinking that's probably, if I take my level from that, dig out a little bit so that when I put the gravel down, and then eventually get a sort of a refectory table in here, and have it as a proper door made, or some form of renovation on that door. I suspect that door is possibly, look at the cobwebs, I suspect that door is probably beyond renovation, but I will consult my local friendly carpenter about that. get a refectory table for eating in the summertime. I think it would be lovely. And of course have the walls just lined with better shelving than that for wine and start my little wine collection. I also organized the second cellar, so let me bring you out there. That's my my woodshed. Let's not even look there. Oh, I locked it and I don't have the keys. Never mind, next time. We also did an awful lot of work with the garden. Me and Matt, the gardener, although admittedly it was mostly him. So there was an old dead peach tree here, and he's cut that back, and he'll take out that stump in the future. These rose bushes, I have several rose bushes kind of randomly placed around the garden. So he's going to gather all of those up into one place and plant them against that wall. So they still get the same amount of sunlight, so they still thrive, but they cover up my neighbour's rather ugly shed. What else did we do? So there was down along the lovely dry stone wall down along here, because the garden had been fairly neglected for some time, there was a scrappy plant growing at the bottom of this beautiful oak tree. So he took that out. And then these plums or damsons, I can't quite figure out what they are, they had self-seeded a lot. So down along here were sort of a bunch of scrappy plum seedlings and half trees. So he's cleared those out. Underneath the magnolia, this is my beautiful magnolia, the pride of my garden, there was something odd, a shrub that was sort of silvery green that just kept growing under there, and I thought I wanted this bit here to be all about the magnolia, and I would like to put in some form of seat that runs around the outside of it, so because it's always shaded and it's lovely in the summertime, and of course you get the flowers in the springtime. So I wanted this space to be clearly just about the magnolia. And any wood that we cut from various trees I've stacked back there so that it can age a few years before I put it into my wood burning stove. He tidied up various bits, pulled out extra to requirement shrubs again that had just self-seeded. That was an old stump. He still has to take that one out. But yes, so down here was the last bit. So there used to be this tree. I'm not entirely sure what that is. And then two smaller ones. There's the stump of one and there's the stump of two of the same type. And what would happen is that this whole corner here was just kind of a dumping ground. It still is a little bit, to be frank, but it was a dumping ground because it was shady and dark and you had to duck under the branches to get into it. And so it just kind of became the corner of shame. So he took out those two and we did some pruning of this peach tree, which is here. Just took off lower branches so it didn't intrude so much on the fig, and then did quite a bit of pruning with the fig. Took off anything that was going off in that direction and the lower branches here so that you can actually walk in. You had to stoop to walk in here before. You can actually walk in, and the fig isn't in great shape because it has been dry here. I gave it some of that rainwater in that tank the other day, and that seems to have revived it somewhat, but yeah, it's not been good for the plants. I mean, that's my grass. Last year, I had to cut that grass maybe, or at least 4 times over the course of 6 weeks. I haven't had to cut it once this time. Everything is so dry. So yeah, in here, so this is a rainwater tank that comes down, kind of patched together by the previous owners, but comes down from that gutter there and fills up. And because this has become a dumping ground and rocks seem to rise to the surface in the ground here, this corner is a little bit shabby. So one of my next projects is going to be, when I get a non-sunny day, maybe in October, maybe in February, is to just dig all of that out and maybe bring that, and you can see these are all the rocks, stones, bits of old pottery, bits of old glass, bits of old slate that I've taken up out of the actual garden, bring all of that to the quarry so that they can just grind it down. And of course that tree, he trimmed off the bottom parts of it so it looks more like a tree and less like an overgrown bush. Yeah, I'm happy. So this is my little domain right now with a lovely painting. Henri is going to do that orange beam, and if I get any fine weather in October at all, I'll do that part, and it'll just continue as we go.